Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Glad you guys are joining me. We got a dev blog for you guys because that's the time of the year we're in. In the next major update, we are going to be having, I guess this is the next major update. I guess I don't actually know that for sure, but either now or somewhat soon, we're going to have replacement tanks in Enlisted. Now let's talk about what that means, guys. And I'll say the devs are cooking. I love this idea. So basically, what the devs are saying all here, you can pause and read, or I'll leave a link in the description below. But basically, the devs are saying that, hey, you know, with the soft rule for matchmaking, things are a lot better. Balance is a lot better across the board. But sometimes you still get in these games where you're BR1 in a game with BR3s, or you're BR3 in a game with BR5. And like, we kind of have to have that for balance or for matchmaking reasons to keep the game kind of running. But that's not very fun if you're the one or you're the, you know, if you're the bottom tier, if you're the one or you're the three, because then you're up against like tanks you can't fight. And so what the devs have cooked up, and I love this, this is so sick, is a replacement tank. So you're going to be able to spawn in a replacement tank if you're the low BR, if you're either BR1 or BR3. You're going to be able to spawn a replacement tank supplied by the game, and have an additional spawn points located next to that one. You don't have to unlock it. You don't gotta buy it. These are just things that you get to spawn, assuming that your opponent has spawned like a top tier tank. So if you're sitting in BR3, right, and you have a Sherman equipped, right, a Sherman, an M4A2 Sherman, right, BR3 tank, and the enemy spawns a King Tiger because they're BR5, well, your Sherman can't do shit against that, right? Like, literally nothing. Your tank is, like, actually unironically worthless against them. And so the game is going to supply you with a BR4 tank. It's just going to give you a BR4 tank. You're going to have this, like, different little spawner here. And it's going to spawn you in a BR4 tank, which, you know, isn't going to be necessarily able to go toe-to-toe with that BR5 tank. But depending on the situation, like, yeah, you actually could be able to fight that, right? Especially if you're playing, like, Germany or something against, like, Soviets, and the Soviet player spawns, like, an IS-2, and you spawn, like, a Panther. You can fight that, right? Like, a King Tiger, maybe, you know, that original example is not the best because, like, nothing really fights King Tigers, even at BR5. But it still means that, like, you're getting to spawn like a better tank, right, automatically. The tank will not have any upgrades, even if you already own that tank and it's upgraded. And your current selected tankers will be the temporary crew. They'll just get in the better tank. I actually think this is such a sick idea. I don't know how much this is going to affect things in practice. It could just end up being that, like, yeah, you get to spawn a better tank, but you kind of get, you know, your ass eaten anyway. But like, I think it's just really cool. I think it's like a really interesting idea. It's a really interesting mechanic to put into the game. And even if it doesn't really work, I think that, like, from the developer perspective, this is my designer brain kicking in now. Like, from that perspective, having this mechanic where you can kind of, like, the game can give a tank to a player is like such an awesome idea that I really want to see expanded in the future. Right? Like, I think there's so many different ways that they could tweak this mechanic in a really interesting way, to give, like, temporary spawns, or to give, like, a temporary bombing run even. Like, say you could just, like, spawn in a plane that gets, like, a single load, and you get to, like, swoop in and, like, bomb, right? Like, think about that for, like radio operators. Imagine if for radio operators, instead of that big bombing run that we have, you can call in, like, a single Stuka bombing, and as soon as you call it in, you, like, take control of the plane, and then you, like, do a dive bomb, and then and then it just, like, puts you back to your AI squad, right? Like, after you do that bombing run. Like, I think that's, like, such a cool idea, and, like, really works with, like, Enlisted's, like, combined arms gameplay. And I think the same thing could be done here. Or maybe even, like, radio operators could call in a tank. Like, imagine if you, as, like, a radio operator, could call in a tank and one of your teammates could spawn it. Like, it adds it here. I just think that's, like, such a cool idea. I actually wish that, like, I know they won't do this, but imagine if they, like, removed the really overpowered tanks in the game, like the King Tiger, that's, like, really hard to deal with, and they made it to where, like, you could spawn it in like this somehow, right? Like, it's, instead of it being, like, a thing that you kind of see, like, 10 in a game because someone brought them and they're really, really strong, they made it like this, where you, like, actually spawn them in and they were, like, one-time use things to make them, like, feel really badass, you know? Like, oh my god, they have a King Tiger, like, what the fuck are we gonna do? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm kind of ranting at this point. There's a lot of options. My point is that I like this mechanic. I think it's really interesting. I think that at the very least, it'll do something. If maybe it doesn't necessarily solve this problem, it'll still do something to alleviate it a little bit. It's better than nothing. And I think it's a really, really interesting mechanic going forward, right? That's kind of I think that's my takeaway. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. Leave a comment down below. While you're there, like and subscribe as always. But definitely, guys, comment what you think about this. I think it's such a cool idea, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, as I'm sure the developers would as well. So there you go, guys. Without anything else, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.